Jumpin' In on Manx Radio.
With Howard and Chris Kane.
Hello.
Good evening.
And welcome. And here we are again, jumping in on a Friday evening, and a bit of a special Friday evening because this is the last Jumping In as we count down the days to the start of the London Jazz Festival 2024 with some very special guests. And I don't just mean for this evening, of course, myself, H.
And me, Chris. Yes, welcome along to this week's show. And it's actually the start. It started yesterday, but we have something of a taster. Yes, the London Jazz Festival proper gets underway tonight with a great set of artists, including Pat Metheny, Kenny Barron, Tord Gustafsson, Fergus Creedy and McCready, and many, many more. But before we head down to check it out ourselves, we're bringing you a taster as we chat with a fantastic South African pianist and composer, Nduduzo Makhathini, and bassist and composer extraordinaire and friend of the programme, Jaspar Hoiby. But before we start, H, what tops your list of artists you hope to see this week, and have you brought any festival highlights with you?
Well, you know what? I think Nduduzo is certainly well up on my hit list of someone to see. Jaspar Hoiby, again, never disappoints whenever you see him. And Billy Cobham celebrating 80 years.
Can you believe it?
I know, and still playing strong, so hopefully we'll get to catch up with him. We've been trying to line up an interview with him. Not an easy man to get hold of. We'll see how we go. You never know.
Fingers crossed, or should it be crossed sticks? And from me, well, other than a mention of Nduduzo and obviously Jaspar's latest release, we say goodbye to two stars who between them have given the better part of 2 centuries to producing great jazz. To get things rolling, we say goodbye to drummer Roy Haynes, who passed away this week. One of his hundreds of collaborations, including several with Oliver Nelson. We now hear stolen moments from his fantastic 1961 Impulse release, Blues and the Abstract Truth. Fantastic stuff. Stolen Moments from Blues and the Abstract Truth, Oliver Nelson's masterpiece on Impulse from 1961. Recorded under the watchful eyes and, more importantly, ears of Rudy Van Gelder, and featuring the drumming of the late Roy Haynes, who passed away aged 99, as well as Reedman, Eric Dolphy, bassist Paul Chambers, Bill Evans at the piano, and Freddie Humpert on trumpet, as well as, of course,
Freddie
Oliver
Humpert?
on sax. Freddie Hubbard, not Freddie Cumpert. Freddie Crumpet, yes. As the New York Times observed, Haynes was an irrepressible force who remained relevant over the course of a a 7-decade career with a hand in every major development in modern jazz. Haynes himself recalled, "A teacher in school once sent me to the principal because I was drumming with my hands on the desk in the class." His career collaborations lead very much like a who's who of jazz royalty, from Louis Armstrong, Lester Young and Sarah Vaughan to Coltrane, Dolphy, Getz through to Correa and Matheny. He'll be sadly missed, but he leaves a significant recorded legacy.
He was amazing, one of those amazing smiley drummers as well that you see. Again, I love watching drummers because you see some of them are hunched and some of them look serious and some of them stare into the space. And then you get some, like Roy, who was always beaming away. Art, I think, had that knack as well somewhat. And I think James Madron, on the much more modern front, is another great smiley drummer, always grinning away, looking like he's thoroughly enjoying every minute. And Roy, you got the impression he enjoyed every beat he played over the years. And he definitely was playing up until only a year or two back, way into his 90s, he was still out there playing, and one of the few left. I was just thinking as you were saying that, from the classic early Blue Note days. Hoiby's still around and playing. I think Sonny is still alive. It hasn't played for several years, and I'm not too sure there's anyone else, is there? Well,
I think between all of them, Roy played with all the big jazz labels and, as you say, playing until very recently. So no shame in passing away at 99. Now, the first of our two guests this evening from Nduduzo Makhathini's new album, which is Non Kob Bolwane. I apologise if I get that wrong. Let's hear Ugzolo.
My name is Nduduzo Makhathini. I'm a South African pianist, improviser, and scholar educator. Cosmology is a very central subject in music making practices in terms of ancient Africa, so to speak, and in kind of post colonial moments where, there's an insurgence of people really considering indigenous knowledge practices, and the glimpses that leave post all of these catastrophes, of course, that have created various forms of erasures. So, I think as an artist, one has a responsibility to kind of keep intact some of these practices. And I think using sound as a way to kind of activate discourses, to activate connections, and I think to essentially land on some kind of relative or relational uh, practice for sound making is really a thing that fascinates me. So, I try to bring in all of these connections to my music.
Now, to an extent, I suppose, a lot of people first came across your music with the Blue Note release of Modes of Communication, which was
Right,
globally praised back in 2020. But actually, you'd been
right.
touring and performing for quite a considerable time before that release, hadn't you?
Yeah. Man, I think that album is so important, and I think, and again, the metaphor, this idea of sending out a letter,
Yes.
letters from the underworlds, really speaks to that whole notion of like, how do we really send out the messages of our ancestors that they couldn't give to the world themselves? And here I'm also thinking like in close proximity with the jazz praxis, especially from South Africa, and thinking about exile and the place,
Yes.
London, and how the Blue Notes, Peggy Mselegu, were doing collaborations with British musicians at a time, where it was difficult to really play this music in South Africa.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking about, you know, that moment of modes of communications coming out was for me to really tell the South African story that is maybe unknown to the world, but definitely known to places like London, Switzerland, where musicians were creating South African music histories outside of South Africa. So it's interesting you should make that connection. So that break of that album for me was also a break for, the untold histories of South African
Sure.
music. Yeah.
Do you, I think, again, talking about the links with the music, as you said, telling the history and getting in your music, it's sort of deeper a role within the Zulu warrior code that you reference quite a bit. And then, obviously, when we're
Right.
talking about music being consumed in London, in the West, or whatever, it's been taken as a sort of an instant gratification, a sort of throwaway society, people
Right.
where they consume music in a very sort of flippant way. Do you see any sort of
Right.
dichotomy between those two?
There's definitely a dichotomy, and it's one of the things that I've been addressing in my concerts all around the world, by way of kind of stepping into a different register of engagement under what I've been calling ritual strategies. And so this is basically to suggest that there's a failure in an attempt to perform. And so this is by way of history. Of course, when we think about the Black Atlantic, or we think about the ways in which there's been moments of dehumanization, uh, rendering black subjects as non-being, as Fanon has kind of indexed. And so in this failure, in this catastrophic history, the one other way to make visible, by way of getting into a different register, of thinking about this music or the concert space as a ritual space. And I think that heals all of these problems of exoticization or a kind of exhibition or a kind of um, a way in which the music ends with commodification as a kind of like a transactional approach. So I think this attempt to get into this register of ritual really heals all of those wounds, but it also brings us to this relational praxis again, this kind of sameness, this collective memory. And those are really the themes that I think are trying to go against or trying to kind of erase the dichotomy and blur into some level of shared humanity, sameness, and all these things that I'm proposing through the sound.
Mama, ngicela ukubonga ngakho konke ongenzele khona. Uthando lwakho luyangimangaza, namusa wakho uyangibusisa. Ngicela ukubonga we mama, ngakho konke ongenzele khona. Mama, 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 oh mama, uyisibusiso kimi, uhlala njalo ngikubonga. Manje usungishile, umoya wakho sikhanyisele sokalisa ngilinde ngithathe zami izikode ntshosho mandi ngamandi siyophinde sihlangane phumula.
I think to an extent music is probably one of the oldest, if not the oldest, forms of communication. And I know we were lucky enough to be brought up in a musical family, as indeed were you. And I know your mother taught you initially on the piano, your father played the guitar. I was wondering, what was your first exposure to jazz, though? And was it through music from within South Africa, or was it from music outside?
Very, very, very interesting. And I think this question I could answer like in two folds. On the one hand, I definitely had no jazz influences, at least up till I was 17. I had not had this kind of music, and I had come, of course, from a kind of rural setting where I didn't have much exposure to television or LPs or anything of that sort, which I will see as a blessing later. And then, of course, on the other end, there was, this introduction to this music via John Coltrane, A Love Supreme,
Yes.
which really made the connection. And so essentially, I started to feel that even though I had not had jazz growing up, but when I heard A Love Supreme, I felt like there was a lot of jazziness in
Yes.
my upbringing, and the folk music in South Africa possesses this jazz matrix. So in a sense, you know, like Chris McGregor once said, who was a pianist for the Blue Note, when he was in London, and he said in his book, for South Africans, you know, when we play this music, it comes really natural because it's linked to folk sounds in the country. So I think there is this kind of blaring again of when do we start playing this music? Is it an American influence? Or when we hear African American jazz, it reminds us of something even more ancient in Africa. So those are some of the connections I've been trying to explore even in my writing.
We're very much looking forward, and lots of others, of course, to seeing your appearance at the London Jazz Festival 2024. Can you just tell us a little bit about that? Will people, if they are familiar with Unam Kubulawane, is it music from there? Is it a solo setting in this set for the London Jazz?
Right. Thank you for that, man. So definitely it is Unomkhubulwane, which I've spoken about her a number of times. She's a mythical rain goddess. She governs fertility and creation, and she speaks through the language of water. And water has really been an energy field that I'm kind of considering and contemplating a lot in my music. I mean, I'm currently on tour in the US, and I just started touring with this young drummer. And because we didn't have many rehearsals, so I just said to him, man, just play like water or play water. So that's really what I'm like presenting around the world, this sense of abundance. And I'll be bringing my trio that will feature Cuban drummer Luke Mil Perez and US double bass player as well, like Duma Lapierre. And yeah, man, I'm really excited to present this trio. And I think I'm playing the London Jazz Fest for the first time, so it's a big deal for me, man.
Yeah, excellent.
Hopefully we can catch up with you then. We're looking forward to the concert very much, and of course the whole festival. And Dudu, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Big love, brothers, and all
Oh.
the best.
Oh, what a lovely guy he was. Really nice. Nduduzo Makhathini from South Africa. Yes, where he teaches and is head of faculty of music at Fort University, I think it is. Very deep, very academic, but an excellent character. And looking forward to that gig.
Yeah, very much so, and looking forward to meeting him too. A good jazz brother, as he said to us, which was very nice. He was a lovely guy.
He was indeed. Another lovely guy who we've had the pleasure of meeting on several occasions now. We should say, by the way, Nduduzo is playing Thursday evening, it is, at the London Jazz Festival. I don't know whether it's sold out. You might be lucky. You take a look onto LJF 2024, look at their website, and it'll soon tell you if you can get down to that. I would highly recommend it. Playing at the King's Place. A man who's playing in several places, I think, is our next guest, Jaspar Hoiby, a man who's all over the place during London Jazz 2024, and a man very much inspired musically by green issues, what we're doing to the world, the effect we're having on the planet and such like. And we caught up with him as well. But let's hear a little bit first off of Clock of the World.
to have lost our ties with one another, to have become strangers and even enemies of one another and competitors. We've lost a lot of our spirit. We have so much to rediscover. There are so many creative energies that are part of human history that have been lost because we've been pursuing the almighty dollar. We haven't recognized at what expense we've done that. The expense not only of the earth, not only of people of color, but of our own souls. We think we are only the victims. We no longer recognize that we have the capacity within us to create the world anew. Our thinking, to change our philosophy by responding to and really trying to understand what's happening, what time it is on the clock of the world.
Clock of the World, Jaspar Hoiby, from What It Means to Be Human. Like I said, so much inspired by ecological and green issues and the rate of the planet and pollution and what we're doing to the earth and such like, often forming the themes for his music, and very fond, I thought, or at least I put to him, of playing in the trio format.
Hey, listen, take me back to 1982 and I can do like a 10-tet or a 12-piece ensemble, or you know, it makes a lot of sense to play with a smaller band these days. So it's like, I guess it's like half a practical solution and also a format I really love. 3 people is good. It's more than enough.
Of course, Phronesis famously was a trio which we all loved for many years. And I was thinking back to 2011 when, in fact, you had the album partially dedicated to your sister's loss of sight. And in fact, you performed a number of gigs in the dark. And moving on to 3 Elements now, we're in the second album just about to come out with this lineup. Is your passion and interest and personal feelings something that very much drives your compositional style?
I think it's definitely also a motivation. It's always a motivation for me to kind of try and put as much of myself into the music. So I think people approach that in different ways, but I always seem to kind of try and relate the two things, whatever's going on in my personal life, but also make that reflect in whatever music I'm writing. So I don't know how conscious it is, but it just seems to be the way I work.
Sure.
And the trio you're going to have this year, tell us a little bit about the trio then, because it might be a trio that people hadn't seen before. Obviously, there's a new record on Audition coming out, but tell us about the trio that will be appearing at LGF 24.
Yes, this trio is the second recording in a 3-album recording series. 3 Elements. I kind of just thought I really wanted to do a piano trio again, but I also wanted to kind of explore and get to play with a lot of new people. So I had an idea to kind of do 3 different projects or 3 different versions of the trio with different music. So this is now the second album. It's actually out now. It came out in May, late May. So the album is already officially out. And this band features Sharon Im and Jamie Pete, both based in Amsterdam. I know quite a few people in Amsterdam and also some of that scene. Most of them are like between late 20s and sort of late 30s, I guess. So yeah, I've just been really inspired by whatever's going on there at the moment. And these two people, this was a kind of combination that I haven't played with before. I've played with Jamie many years ago in another constellation, but Sharon I haven't played with before. I know about her through Sun Mi Hung, who's a common friend and collaborator, and Jamie, he's just been playing in loads of different ensembles over the years, and I've been keeping an eye on him for all that time.
And you're right, and Behind the Times, that is out for a time. So is the third album in the trio, is that going to be out, in later this year, or is that next year? How's that working?
Next year. Next year, and that's still to be confirmed, but next year, early autumn, I think.
If listeners haven't already got them, by the way, of course, Earthness was the first of the three, and
Yes.
like Water, this second one. tell us what is the theme of the third one?
The theme of the third one is air, I guess. So the
Okay.
first one was fire, even
Yeah.
though it's called Earthness, deceptively. And second one is water, and third one is air.
Oh, these themes, because again, you're often drawn to these naturalistic elements, and again, thinking about within your music the planet, the environment, our sort of human reaction with the planet, and how we, are sort of can be seen to be damaging the place in which we live. Are these themes which you keep coming back to in your music, something which actually drives you within your musical invention?
These are themes that are kind of driving me in my personal life. I guess I'm always just aware of, or trying to be aware of what's going on and what we're doing and what our connection is to our environment. But this project is not specifically meant to be about that. I don't know how good a business opportunity it is to sort of talk about the natural decay of the environment all the time. I don't think actually a lot of people on paper, they think, oh my God, I don't want to hear about this. So this is consciously definitely not an attempt to do that. But obviously, it's always things that concern me, and I'm always trying to find ways I can, do things better, and interested in new forms of architecture and energy and all this stuff. So yeah, it's a very central part of my life. But this project is a little more abstract, and I guess using some of those elements, it's also like a sort of very vague reference to all the different elements, like star signs and things like this, which I think kind of influence and paint who we are as people and how we get on and stuff. So there was a little bit of that too. I just think that's really interesting.
It's interesting talking about trio format, as you said, because it is something which is easier to ensure all three of you can get together, easier to plan dates and tours and these sorts of things. But one thing that has struck me, and sorry, we seem to have some distortion on the call, but one thing that has struck me, we always like to start the show with a big band, and I'm constantly surprised by how many great young big bands are coming up, both on this side of the Atlantic and the other as well. Purely, I think, driven by the interest in people to still support large format music. So how do you feel the scene is, particularly around London where you're based? Is it still very active? It seems to me, looking at the gigs outside of the festival, there's still a pretty good scene going on.
Oh, I think London is still incredible. I mean, somehow it's managed to survive for all the Brexit stuff and everything. I guess there's probably fewer people moving here and fewer people coming here because it's just financially kind of impossible.
Sure.
Especially in the arts, where we don't have any guarantee of money and sort of limited resources and stuff. So I think that's the kind of thing we're probably going to feel in years to come. But right now it seems to be as great as ever, and there's a bunch of young people just lining up to get involved and give their take on the whole thing. So yeah, I'm really happy. I mean, I actually moved back here a couple of years ago to London, and I'm really happy to be back. Feels like being home. So.
And of course, a good record label supporting you makes a lot of difference, doesn't it, in driving new music out? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I have a good relationship with Dave. We've been working together for like more than 10 years. What is it? 15 years now, I think. So yeah, and there's not much reason for me to think about doing it any other way. It's really good. I have lots of artistic freedom, and we can always come up with new plans and ideas together and stuff. So that works really good.
That's Dave Stapleton.
And also the label
Edition, yes.
Yeah, Edition Records. And it's also kind of turned into a massive international record label, almost. Not a massive label, it's still an indie label, but some pretty big artists I never thought I'd sort of be on a label with, actually, which is just fun.
So just going forward, you've hinted at obviously a third album coming out in this series of 3 Elements next year. What else is on the drawing board for you at the moment? Or I should say more accurately, I suppose, on the piano stand or the bass stand.
That's kind of my main focus right now. I also have recorded another album with the fellow Creatures lineup, not the old lineup, but a new kind of lineup. So I have that as well to release at some point, but I haven't really planned when to release that. That's all recorded though. So I have a few things going, but I think I'm going to keep focusing and pushing on the trio. It's not completely easy to sort of make people aware that it is actually a band and a project, because it's different all the time, but I think slowly it's getting through. So that's really exciting. That's nice for me. Next record is going to be recorded in February. So I'm writing the music at the moment and trying to plan everything.
do you get the chance to go and listen to some music and hear some new people for you as well?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely that is a time, like, and also just see people in town who I might know, or, you know, bands that don't sort of come through all the time. That's a really good opportunity to do that.
Jaspar, thanks ever so much for taking the time to speak to us.
That'll be
Jumpin'
very
In
good.
today.
Let me know if you're coming.
Really appreciate it. We look forward to the gigs and hopefully catch up in town soon.
Take care.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.
He's another nice guy, isn't he?
He's another nice guy and always makes time to come and talk to us, which is lovely. Well, that just about wraps up our LJF preview. Many thanks to our guests, Nduduzo Makhathini and Jaspar Hoiby.
Yeah, and we'll stick up the podcast for you to listen to the whole podcast if you're interested.
The entire interviews, yeah. If you're already there, we hope you're enjoying a great gig tonight, and then you'll listen again online on the podcast. We will be there later in the week and are both looking forward to some great jazz and hopefully a chat with some more artists. I mentioned at the top of the hour we're saying goodbye to 2 jazz legends this week. The other, who has just passed away at the age of 98, is Lou Donaldson. The saxophonist says he was heavily influenced by Charlie Parker, but whilst using the language of bop, he produced danceable songs. Alligator Boogaloo is his 1967 Blue Note classic, sharing credits with trumpeter Melvin Leslie, Lonnie Smith on organ, George Benson on guitar, and Leo Morris, who's better known as Idris Muhammad. Don had said of the title track, "We made a date and we were 3 minutes short. I said we don't have no more material, and the guy just said, just play anything for 3 minutes so we can fill out the time. So I just made this riff and naturally the guys could follow it. That's the only damn thing that sold on the record. And a big hit it was too. Alligator Boogaloo. See you soon.
Be good.
Bye for now.